Welcome back to the Exempt List. We're live in Las Vegas at Radio Row for Super Bowl 58. That's a lot of Super Bowls. Today we're talking about Super Bowl F1 for some reason, coaching hires, offensive coordinator hires with my good friend Jessica Smetana from Dan Betard Show. And we'll be right back in a second with the show. Welcome to the Exempt List, part of the Zero Blitz podcast family, presented by Prime. I am joined by my friend, Jessica Smetana. Also, let me introduce myself. I'm Charles McDonald. I do NFL content at Yahoo Sports. Sometimes a reporter. Sometimes I'm just an idiot with a mic in front of my face. Today, I'm an idiot with a mic.
Sorry.
Today, I'm an idiot with a mic in front of my face. But I am joined by a genius friend of mine.
A genius status. I don't know about that. I like that you said F1 for some reason. Like, way to sell it. Way to sell it in the intro, Charles.
Okay, but we're in Vegas, right? And
home of F1.
Home of F1.
Somehow.
Yeah. And as I was telling you before the show, this is kind of my only connection with F1. I was up super late one night when they had like a race start, like 1 a.m.
Yeah. The Las Vegas race, right?
Yeah, the Las Vegas race. Right. So I want to ask you first off, because we'll get into the football stuff in a second. But for now, this is an F1 podcast.
Okay.
And there was some big F1 news this past week.
A lot of big F1 news.
Right. But the only one that I know, so the one that we'll focus on is Lewis Hamilton heading to Ferrari.
Yeah.
And first of all, I wanted to know, why does it matter what team you're on?
And does it not matter, like, if it's an NFL player, what team they're on? Like, that matters.
More individualized than something like that?
Yeah, but F1 fans are fans of drivers and of teams. And in fact, I think, I don't know exactly what the split is, but I feel like more are fans of teams than of specific drivers, except for when it comes to superstars like Lewis Hamilton. So now his fans are going to follow him wherever he goes, which is a pretty big loss for Mercedes, I would think. Okay,
so how do you decide if you're going to root for Ferrari or Mercedes?
Probably if you're not someone who grew up like following F1 and you have like a team that you're a fan of because of your geographic location or someone you loved when you were younger, probably because of who is driving for them right now. So Lewis Hamilton is like unequivocally one of the biggest stars in sports in the world, not just in motorsports, which I feel like as an American maybe is like, we don't really realize a lot of the other stars in the soccer world sometimes, or football, I guess I should say, or Formula One, but like he is
another country,
a mega star. Exactly. Yeah. So it is a pretty big deal that he's moving teams now from Mercedes to Ferrari, but I find it very hard to like adequately like explain it because I can't think of a good comparison for it really.
So is this kind of like when I was a kid, Michael Vick got drafted by the Falcons.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm a Falcons fan for the most part. So that's like how you end up being a Ferrari fan?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I thought maybe people were joining it because they like Mercedes cars. Like Benzes look really cool.
The thing about F1 though is like most of the cars the teams are like pretty high end. Like there's Aston Martin and Ferrari and McLaren and Mercedes. And I feel like most fans aren't driving road cars that are, represented by those brands. At least I'm not.
Okay.
Although Honda does, they are a power supplier of Formula One. So
interesting.
Yeah, maybe you have a Honda connection. I have a Honda connection.
Well, my mom used to drive a Honda when we were kids.
Hondas are great cars.
Yeah.
Super underrated.
Okay. I have a couple questions before we get into like more NFL stuff.
You keep talking about Hondas.
I don't have much to say about Hondas, but I do have a question about you. Is Max Verstappen a cheater? Like, okay, because every time I pull up F1 stuff on Twitter, it's just all about how he's winning constantly.
I don't think he specifically is cheating at anything. I think he's like a once in a generation. Well, I guess I can't say once in a generation. Well, maybe you can. Lewis is a lot older than him. He's like a once in a generation driving talent, but he also races for a team that has just been steps ahead of everyone else in terms of making a car that is just so much faster. But he absolutely deserves all of the wins he's gotten based off of his aggressiveness, his skill, like all of the things that make you a great Formula One driver. But Red Bull as a team, I do think people like they went over the budget last year. They got in trouble for it, but it was kind of like a slap on the wrist. Like there have been different things that if you're a hater, which obviously in any sport, you've got, everyone has like the Death Star teams, like the Cowboys, in the NFL,
like that. The Chiefs.
Or do you think the Chiefs have already reached like everyone hates them status because they're too good?
It's starting.
It's starting, but like I don't think we're there the way that we're there. Like when the Cowboys were in the bed within like the first 5 minutes of the playoffs this year, did you not feel like a collective like, haha, holy shit, from like everyone that's not a Cowboys fan?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like the Chiefs aren't there yet. Like if the Chiefs are down big in the first quarter of this game, I don't think everyone is going to be quite as like satisfied.
I feel like
laughing at them.
You have to lose enough big games to the point where it becomes a meme for you. Like,
yeah,
I'm a Falcons fan.
Right. Yes.
It's funny.
That is exactly you
funny.
get it.
Yeah. Like I remember speaking of Falcons Cowboys when they had the year where they didn't know like the onside kick rules and they just huddled around the ball and the Cowboys pick it up. Like that's a kind of gaff.
You have to do it in an embarrassing way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Red Bull's very good, and people do love to hate them. And I think it's specifically the rivalry that Max Verstappen has with Lewis Hamilton, as like, you know, Lewis being one of the most popular drivers of all time, losing a championship to Max Verstappen because of a very dubious decision made by the Formula One like race director. I guess like it'd be like a referee. Has led, you know, he didn't cheat though. I wouldn't call it cheating, but I think you could call Red Bull cheaters if you wanted to really be like a hater.
Red Bull, cheaters, hating.
Which I'm a hater. Like I hate a lot of stuff.
All right, let's bring this back to football.
Okay, fine.
Real quick, because this is not an F1 podcast. I don't know anything about F1, but I feel like I've learned a lot today. So for non-F1 NFL fans, like what's the NFL comparison here for Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari?
I don't know if I can even really think of one. I mean, Tom Brady is obviously like the best comparison in terms of like fame and success to Lewis. Lewis has won the most amount of he's tied for the most amount of championships with Michael Schumacher. But like I said, there was like that one lap where he would have had the record and didn't get it. Very controversial. So like Lewis, to a lot of people, is the GOAT, and as is Tom Brady. But I can't think of like a Ferrari comp in the NFL other than like maybe the Cowboys. Ferrari is a iconic Formula One team. Like they are old, they are successful. Like to a lot of people, they are Formula One. So I can't think of a comp in the NFL that is perfect. But I guess Tom Brady to the Cowboys is like, if he had done that after he left the Patriots, I think we'd be freaking out the way people are freaking out about Lewis Hamilton.
Okay. So like if Patrick Mahomes today decided to join, I don't even know if there's a team that's on their level. I guess the 49ers or something like that.
That's what I mean. It's really hard to come up with a comparison that I think is adequate. Lewis is just like, he is so head and shoulders above like a lot of other athletes in other sports. He does a lot.
All right. Well, let's bring it back to what we're actually here for.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl.
Okay.
Now, last night, my plane got in maybe a little later than I would have liked. I missed media day, missed media night.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was an accident.
It was a total mistake by me. Did not do any of this on purpose. So I missed media night.
Okay.
But I think for people who are listening to the podcast who have never been to media night, it's a spectacle. A zoo would be like a kind word for media night.
Well, there is a zoo comparison in that, like, there's so many fans that go now and just watch like what's happening on the field. And I feel like since I started working in sports media, the number of fans that attend has gotten higher. And maybe they're selling more tickets now. Maybe they're marketing it as a bigger event for fans. But I find that aspect of it so interesting because I genuinely like, I'm curious from a fan perspective, like what you kind of get out of that. Because it's really just like a ton of people just standing around like with a recorder being like, hey, tell me about Spags.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting is a kind word. It's not the word that I would have gone with.
You're going to be way meaner than me.
Yes. Okay, a lot meaner.
Just say it.
If you're listening to this podcast and you are someone who is interested in buying tickets to go to media night, to just sit in the stadium and watch people get interviewed, you can't even hear most of it. Why? I don't get it. I shouldn't say I don't want to go.
People want to be close to the player. I think maybe you and I are jaded. You know, we've been doing this for a long time. Not that long. We're both very young and spry.
Something like that.
But we're like, oh yeah, what's another media night? But maybe if you're a fan who is in town and can't afford to go to the Super Bowl or, you know, isn't going to have access to other Chiefs or 49ers events, like maybe it is worth it to just see like, oh my God, there's Patrick Mahomes.
And there's a bunch of people talking.
But maybe not.
And I can't hear Patrick Mahomes.
And it's like, okay, well, here we are. Right. Now what?
Yeah. To me, it's like in the same realm of Because I went to that Chiefs-Dolphins game where it was minus 30. I'm like, why would anyone pay money to come?
Yeah, that's a whole... I mean, I get it. It's a playoff game, but yeah, that type of weather is like, actually, it frightens me and it is scary. Yeah. It is very dangerous.
Yeah. Were there any stand-up moments for you from Indy night?
The amount of fans that were there, honestly, like that did shock. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no. It was pretty much the same every year. I feel like every year, there's some people dressed up doing like some sort of gimmicky stunt thing. There's other people just like a lot of beat reporters just trying to like, get some quotes for a story. It's always kind of the exact same. And in your defense for missing it, it was very early this year. How would you have known it was going to start at 5 p.m. local time?
I mean, how could I possibly known anything?
It's very early.
So they don't send out any information about
no
this
emails.
Stuff. No emails.
No emails were sent.
I don't have anyone in contact with me at work that's telling me when things are happening. It was really just all of my own, and I couldn't make it.
What a bummer.
I couldn't figure out how to get here. My plane was delayed by 15 minutes. It was just...
That was the difference right there.
That was the difference for me.
I get it. I get it.
All right. Any other funny things from just being in Vegas for a few days?
I think it's hilarious that the media hotel is the Luxor. I mean, that's objectively funny, right? Are you staying there?
Yeah, I'm staying there.
Is it nice?
Not really.
It's just like it's a pyramid. Am I allowed to swear?
Sure.
It's just like a big pyramid with a Dorito on the side of it. Like usually the media hotel is like the airport Marriott or some like big Hilton somewhere. But it's the Luxor. And what I love about Vegas is so Vegas-y. Every different place has like its own little vibe going on, which I think is so fascinating. And just picturing like all of these, beat reporters walking around the Luxor, it's just like, what other city are you going to get this kind of weird vibe when you walk out of your hotel room in the morning? Also, everything smells like cigarette smoke. Yes. Everywhere you go.
Well, that's because people are smoking cigarettes inside,
constantly,
everywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's just because Stugatz is in my hotel. It's not even on the same floor as me, but I smell it. Yeah, not smoking room, but it reeks.
I was enjoying myself last night, and I went outside at one point to just stare at the stars.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you see stars? I mean, it's been very cloudy all week.
Why are you punching holes in my stories?
I'm sorry. There's a beam. There's a sphere.
But I looked up. I was outside the Luxor. I was like, oh, it's just a giant Dorito on the side.
It's a giant Dorito with like 1,000 reporters inside of it.
Yeah. And I got spotted when I won like $200 in the slot machine last night.
Oh,
190 to be precise.
How much?
$190.
Okay.
I put in 20.
Wow.
Not bad.
Did you bring a lot of cash to like play games?
I lost my debit card this past weekend, which is really inconvenient. And this is my third Vegas trip. This is the second time I've done it without a debit card.
Ooh.
Don't recommend.
Second time, really?
Yes.
Wow.
The first time I lost my debit card on like the first day.
In Vegas?
Yes.
Is this your first time here for work or like?
No, I've only ever been here for work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know me.
I lost my debit card like 3 years ago to just to one up you a little bit. So I am also cashless this week. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I did see Stugatz won like $2,000 playing blackjack the other night. So I'm probably just going to pickpocket him because I want to play some games.
I would not say I'm cashless. I'm just without a debit card.
Okay.
You
brought some cash.
The first place I stopped when I got off the plane was the Wells Fargo ATM.
Fair.
And yeah, I won some money last night. I lost some money last night, but overall we're in the green. We are
for now.
We're in the green for now. We're in the green for now. I think we should pull back a little bit from our little world of the Super Bowl inertia here and talk about some teams that are not anywhere near the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Never sniffed the Super Bowl probably in a long time.
Yeah.
Because the cruel truth of the NFL is, and the Lions are about to experience this. I've experienced this myself. Just because you get far doesn't mean you're likely to get back.
Yeah.
But everyone is chasing, the feeling of trying to get back here, the accomplishment of a Super Bowl. The Washington Commanders are doing that with Kliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. Kliff was fired, 2 years ago from last season from the Cardinals because Jonathan Gann just finished his first season. Kliff was the offensive coordinator at USC this year, where they took a step back on offense. I don't know how much of that is Lincoln Riley not being as creative as he used to, Kliff Kingsbury's influence, offensive line taking a step back. I don't know. How much faith do you have in this Kliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn marriage?
Okay, I think what's going on with the Commanders and the job search and all the reporting that's come out after is some of the most bizarre stuff I have seen in a really long time, because from what I can tell, the Commanders wanted to hire either the Lions offensive coordinator or the Baltimore defensive coordinator. Both of them said no. Lions offensive coordinator obviously going back to Detroit. Ben Johnson, good for him, wants to stay there as a coordinator for a year instead of coach
another year, because he turned down jobs last year too.
Yeah, which is interesting. And I do genuinely, like, I'm curious what's going on there. And there's like reporting that it's like, oh, he's asking for too much money or whatever. And it's like, I don't know if that's true or not, but sure. And so they ended up with Dan Quinn, who you obviously are very familiar with as a Falcons fan. So it's obvious that he was not their first choice, right? And so trying to sell
their second choice.
Or their second choice. Maybe maybe he's their third. Maybe
I would assume he was the third.
I would assume third. But we don't know. But he seems like a great guy, but he was a good defensive coordinator, minus like the last Cowboys game.
Just don't let him play someone in the Shanahan tree.
Yeah.
And it's usually fine.
So like, I don't think it's like a terrible hire or anything like that. It's very like shades of Ron Rivera though, which seems like that's something that they were trying to get away from. And also the trend right now in the NFL is like hire a young hot coordinator and like let it rip. So I think it's very bizarre. Kliff Kingsbury, obviously people are going to talk about, is Caleb Williams going to end up in Washington now? Are they going to try to trade for the first pick? What are the Bears going to do with Justin Fields? And I think that aspect of it is interesting. But like you said, so him and Lincoln Riley both, like Lincoln Riley obviously has a big hand in USC's offense, and Kliff was there as like a, offensive analyst or coordinator, whatever his actual role was. I'm not exactly sure, but they were very good on offense. Caleb Williams was the reason that they were good on offense.
Correct.
The offense, like, even though I think if you look at a lot of the offensive statistics this year from USC, it was very, very good. But like that was Caleb Williams making magic a lot of the time. So I don't know if that's something you can like replicate as easily in the NFL if you're Kliff Kingsbury, if you actually do get Caleb Williams. And then if you don't, like, what is the backup plan there?
I was a little surprised at the fact that that Kliff was in this level of demand, first of all, because he was supposed to be hired by the Raiders first, and then ends up in Washington. And this was interesting because there was a game in 2019, Kyler Murray's rookie year, where the Falcons went to Arizona and got absolutely shredded by Kliff and Kyler. Kyler had like 400-yard day. They won. And I was like, how much does that game play a role in this happening? Because honestly, like after that year, maybe the year after, their innovation on offense just fell apart. And Dan, in his press conference, he was like, Kliff is a hard guy to game plan for. I'm like, oh, because when he was trying that one year, you guys got absolutely killed. So let's see if it works. I guess maybe they're going to make a trade up for Caleb Williams. But I do think the stuff you said about the new ownership and the Ben Johnson stuff is interesting, because they also, in all of this, they hired Kliff Kingsbury before firing Eric Bieniemy.
Yes.
Also, Martin Mayhew is still on staff there, who was the GM last year, and Adam Peters is taking over. So, like, there's a lot of mixing and matching here. And with the Ben Johnson stuff, I just want to know what's going on here.
Yeah, me too.
You guys allegedly flew to Detroit to interview two people.
Right. Ben
Johnson and Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
But when Ben Johnson canceled, that doesn't make your trip to Detroit a waste of time.
Right. And also, like, so that report was that they were en route to Detroit for the interview, and Ben Johnson's agent, I think, texted them and said that he wasn't going to take the job, and that the Commanders apparently were very, like, put off by that. But like you said, if you're already going there to interview someone else who's a legit candidate, then like, okay,
allegedly a legit candidate.
Allegedly a legit candidate. Your trip still, like, you can still comp that private flight. Like, that's a business expense. Like, you're still going there. You're just going to leave a little bit sooner, right?
Yeah.
Like one shrimp cocktail instead of two. So I don't really, that's how I assume NFL. Like,
with shrimp cocktails?
They're at a steakhouse. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I found that entire thing very bizarre. And also, like, I've never been in one of these contract negotiations as an NFL coordinator or head coach.
Really?
But I haven't yet.
Okay.
But I would happily take one and get fired and take the buyout in a heartbeat if anyone wants to do that. But I don't, like, is it bad that your agent texted them? Wouldn't you rather know ahead of time than waste your time with the interview and have him not even want to not have a chance.
Yeah,
like
if I don't want to do something, that's what they're for.
Tell them ahead of time.
Yeah. Okay, but the funniest part to me was...
Why do we know all of this?
Right.
My question.
Why do we know all this?
I don't really I feel like I don't even really care, but now I'm like, something messy is happening and I need more information on it.
So the reason why it's interesting is because allegedly, not even allegedly, we can say this for certain, Dan Snyder was a terrible owner.
Yeah,
for Washington.
yes. That's
right.
Also an opinion, so
right.
You don't have to hedge at all.
I don't have to.
You're not going to get sued for that.
Dan Snyder sucks.
Terrible owner, no longer there, and you think, okay, the stench is off. They're going to try to get their together, and it doesn't seem like that's happening. It feels
like the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because the most baffling part to me is you hired Dan Quinn. You introduced Dan Quinn as your head coach officially with the press conference. And the next day, another story about you guys crying about Ben Johnson comes out again.
How does Dan Quinn feel about all? I kind of feel a little bad for him, honestly.
It's like if your significant other was like, man, I really wish I was still dating that last person.
Hey, by the way, I got dumped in a really terrible way, but I'm really happy with my new relationship. Let me just tell you about how bad this breakup was. I agree with you. It's very bizarre.
It's weird, and I will say, going from Dan Snyder to anything is probably an improvement, but it doesn't mean it's good. so that's kind of where I am on the Commanders. And also, we know what the Commanders' ownership structure looks like from the standpoint that they run the Sixers. And the Sixers have largely been a disaster outside of just simply having Joel Embiid.
Right.
So I don't know why people are saying that this is a good ownership group. We don't know that yet. Everything that I've seen would suggest this is probably not going to go well for the next couple of years, but maybe I could be wrong again. Like when I said the Lions got an F for their drafts last year, people keep tweeting at me. Like, I don't know.
Draft grades are, no one should be held accountable for draft grades, right? Like,
agreed.
No, I mean, you are a very smart person. You generally know what you're doing. I don't. So I certainly shouldn't be held accountable for any of my opinions. But draft grades for anyone, even people that know what they're talking about, it's a crapshoot. Yes. You don't really know.
So Brad Holmes, I know based on your video that you had the other day where you were at the press conference yelling at reporters, I know you saw me give you an F. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I hope that we can get past this somehow and I don't get yelled at by you at the combine in a few weeks. Last couple of bits of NFL news before we, hit an ad break. The Raiders have hired Luke Getsy.
Yeah.
You as a part-time Bears fan?
Putting my Le Betard Show character aside, I'm not a Bears fan, but I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
And the Bears are a disaster of an organization. I don't even know how to evaluate Luke Getsy with the Bears because it didn't seem like anyone on that staff was on the same page at any point this season or like they were really sure of what to do with Justin Fields. They obviously still don't seem like they know what to do with Justin Fields. I don't know what they're going to do. So I don't know how to rate this, but he's a very experienced NFL coach and he's a Pittsburgh guy, grew up in Pittsburgh. I don't know. What do you make of this? It's fine, right?
Fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't think there's a reason to be excited or disappointed about it either. Like you got someone who can call plays. Like the Bears rushing game was good. When Fields was on his game last year, they had some good games on offense.
I don't think Bears fans were sad to see him get fired, but I do think from a Bears standpoint, it was very weird to fire him, but not fire Eberflus, and then also potentially draft a quarterback first overall and trade Fields. Because then what happens next year if Eberflus blows a few leads again and turns out to not have a great season? Are you going to hire a third offensive coordinator? Are you going to hire a new head coach? What are we doing here?
It is a little messy. It's a little messy.
We're in a cycle of making sloppy choices. The Bears are for decades.
I was like, a cycle?
A long cycle.
How long does this cycle go on?
We've gone back to the beginning of the cycle several times in the last decade. But yeah, so from a Raiders standpoint, it sounded like they were going to try to hire Kliff Kingsbury. That didn't pan out. So now they're getting Getsy and it might be fine. I don't genuinely, I do not know what to expect.
All right. Yeah, same. I think for them, they're at a point, just get a quarterback and see if it changes things. That's how I feel about most offensive coordinator hires. Get a quarterback.
That's how I feel. Okay, we need to talk about, are we going to, I don't want to spoil anything for later in the show, but are we going to talk about Arthur Smith going to the Steelers? Because that's how I feel about Arthur Smith.
Let's talk about Arthur Smith right now.
Okay, let's do that.
What do you feel?
I feel like get a quarterback and then like we'll figure it out because like I don't think he's a bad offensive coordinator. Just because you're a bad head coach doesn't mean, and that's just, I guess you could give the same what's it called, like benefit of the doubt to Kliff Kingsbury. Maybe he's a better offensive coordinator than coach. I don't know. It's not quite.
Yeah, I think Arthur's better than Kliff though. I will say that.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
but I'm just trying to be nice. I do think he's a better offensive coordinator than coach. I do think he does good things with the run game, which the Steelers are always, that's the style of play that Mike Tomlin wants. He wants to be a run first team. He wants to have a big, tough O-line that is just going to bury people late in the season. Yeah. And that's what they did this year, even though they like dipped a lot in the middle of the season and the beginning of the season and a little bit at the end of the season.
Yeah, all over the place.
That's like the Steelers' identity. So from a Falcons fan point of view, like, do you think I should be as like, oh my God, I can't believe we got the FedEx Nepo baby? As like a lot of Steelers fans kind of felt that way. And I was a little bit like, I think this might be okay.
It's fine. Okay. It could be good even. Because what I say about Arthur is, in terms of like offense and how it looked, they only had one bad season really on offense this past one.
Yeah.
If you go buy a bunch of nerdy advanced stats in 2022, the Marcus Mariota offense, they're like borderline a top 10 unit. I know it didn't feel like that sometimes, but in terms of moving the ball, they were up there. It just really fell apart this year. And I think like if they had this type of season in year one, you'd probably feel better about it because like as meme-ish as Desmond Ritter's turnovers were sometimes, he still made some strides in terms of like just his ability to play quarterback. So I think Arthur, obviously it didn't go well. I think the fact that they lost so many games they should have won.
Yeah.
Falcons fashion probably.
And that's the thing the Steelers do too. They tend to lose games they should win every season, which is why there's been a lot of frustration with Mike Tomlin as of late. I love Tomlin. I'm glad he's sticking around. I don't really think any of the rumors that he wanted to step away never really seemed to be rooted in any sort of reality. But I'm with you. I think the biggest concern, though, is like Arthur Smith. If you look at this season, it's like, what was the problem? Well, they couldn't figure it out with their quarterback. And like that was a huge issue for the Falcons. But like, do the Steelers know what they're going to do at quarterback? Because Mason Rudolph was their best quarterback last year. I don't know if he'll be on the team next year. I don't think that's the answer, even if he is.
Well, Kenny Pickett's coming back. We know that.
Yes, Kenny Pickett's coming back.
And I know he's not the answer either.
I don't think he is a great long-term answer. He could surprise me, but I don't think what anyone has seen so far has been like, all right, yeah, this is definitely the guy, right? And I think actually like it's probably almost like a good sign that the Steelers didn't start him in the playoff game because it seems to me by doing that they're open to like, okay, maybe this isn't the guy. Like we're just going to play the guy that's actually the hot hand, if you will. That's what Tomlin said.
Yeah.
The guy that's playing well. So we're not going to stick to the first round pick just because he was the first round pick, which is a mistake that a lot of teams make longer than they should. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a silver lining and also like a bad thing at the same time.
Yeah.
All of it wrapped into one. The Steelers offense, man. I don't know, but I love Najee Harris and Broderick Jones.
Jalen Warren was a fantasy hero.
Love Jalen Warren too. Yeah. He's great.
But yeah, at least you're not starting from an empty cupboard. There's
definitely not. Yeah.
There's pieces to use, and if you can get your hands on a Kirk Cousins with Arthur, it's probably fine.
Yeah, that's possible. I think Steelers fans we're all like, as a group, I include myself in this. We're always looking for someone to blame. And for a while it was Matt Canada. And as soon as he left, it was like, okay, now it's Mike Tomlin or Kenny Pickett, whoever you want it to be. Although Pickett got injured right after Canada got fired. So we didn't even really get to see like a Canada-less Pickett offense, which is, I would like to just see it one time. All right, maybe just once. So I don't know. Will it be Arthur Smith? Probably. I feel like he's the easiest target to be the scapegoat next season. But it's got to be someone.
Well, because there's just like the aura and the cult of the drafted quarterback where no one's ever going to be fully out. Well, let me say, Steelers fans are never going to be fully out for Kenny Pickett until it gets so bad because my team drafted him. So he must be.
And he played at Pitt. And there's a lot of like, obviously the Pittsburgh Pitt connection. I don't have to explain that.
They sat at lunch together. That's why they drafted him.
It's the same thing like when they drafted James Conner. It's like, oh my God, like this is... And James Conner was great.
It was good.
Yeah. He had a good season this year too.
He's still good, yeah. So enough talk about the Steelers and our sad football franchises.
And the Falcons.
I was about to get to that. Both of our sad teams. Let's come back and talk about the real teams after a quick ad break. We are back. And I think there's an interesting parallel in this Super Bowl game where Kyle Shanahan is kind of at like the early portions of his Andy Reid arc.
Ooh, okay.
Because I looked this up the other day because I wrote about it, but youthful people like us, maybe we don't remember everything that happened in the early 2000s, right?
Yes, that's a fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
So Andy Reid, he lost as the head coach of the Eagles. He lost 4 NFC title games. 3 of them were consecutive, and then he lost the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl was at the end of you lose 3 NFC title games.
Right.
Then you get to the Super Bowl the 4th time and you lose. And then they had another game a couple years later where he lost.
Just needed 2 more consecutive Super Bowls so he could win the 3rd one, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan's kind of doing something similar.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of value in the idea that you can be here every year. You can be in the NFC title game. Every time the 49ers have made the playoffs under Kyle Shanahan, they've made it at least to the NFC title game, which is pretty damn impressive. But he doesn't have the Super Bowl ring. One thing I do remember about like just being younger and consuming the early days of my football media was people saying that Andy Reid couldn't win the big one.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that that's not true.
And people saying like he is the worst clock management head coach ever.
That still might be true.
Okay. Well, it seemed like he was worse at it when he was on the Eagles.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot better at it.
But that was his reputation, right?
Yes.
It was like, oh man, the Andy Reid School of Clock Management. I feel like that was something I always heard people talk about.
But I do think it's kind of interesting that, or maybe we've gotten more measured. Maybe smart people like you and me are getting into the media. So
yeah, well, you sometimes
you,
and me after a good night's. We'll say that.
Me after an all-night bender. I think it's kind of interesting that Kyle Shanahan is here at this point, but he doesn't have as much noise. Maybe we're just nicer to people now. People say
I don't think that's true.
That's probably not true. But I feel like there's not as much noise around like Kyle Shanahan can't win the big one or Kyle Shanahan can't do this and that. I think it's like I almost feel like Andy should be looking at a younger version of himself in a way.
Do you think Kyle Shanahan gets any benefit of the doubt for just having the last name? Like, do you think that like that success gets transferred onto him even though he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet?
I would say maybe if he wasn't a part of the 28-3 debacle.
I feel like I also want to ask you like how last year in the NFC Championship game, Brock Purdy like busted his elbow and like Christian McCaffrey was playing quarterback at one point. Like do you think Shanahan has gotten any sort of criticism for how last season went? Because I don't think so.
I don't think there should be any criticism.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think that one like almost is like, okay, we don't count that because that was just your third string quarterback and then he got hurt, right?
Yeah. You lose the game to the Rams the year they won. Then they got to the Super Bowl. Chiefs first Super Bowl win.
Well, that I think is the interesting thing to compare because like they blew that game.
Yes. Jimmy G was a throwaway from being the hero.
Yeah.
And he barely missed Emmanuel Sanders.
They didn't score at all in the end of that game.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that, we come and look at these situations and say, oh, Kyle Shanahan can't win the big one. But he's here.
Yeah.
All the time.
And I feel like he's always here.
Right. And when you're within a game away or being in the game, I don't know how you can say that someone can't do it. But I just found it interesting that they were kind of going through those career parallels. So Andy got to the Chiefs in 2013 after spending like a decade in Philly. So maybe in 2027, when the 49ers fire Kyle Shanahan, he'll move on to another team and win his first title in like 2030 something.
Does he need a prolific quarterback though? Because I think like I don't give like Patrick Mahomes I don't give Andy Reid all the success because of Patrick, or I don't know how all the credit for the exactly. Success, thank you. All the credit for the success, but I do think like it really, really helps when you have Patrick Mahomes, and obviously Shanahan's not playing the same ball. Like he's doing it the Shanahan way, even though like he's tried to get that kind of guy in the draft and it didn't work out. But I don't know. It's I think there's a lot I think winning Super Bowls, specifically Super Bowls, not football games in general. But Super Bowls come down to like, have to have the right guys. You have to have the right coaches. But I do think there's a lot of luck involved and a lot more luck than I think we give anyone credit for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of luck is involved in winning and losing these games.
The football is shaped stupidly. And sometimes that actually has an impact on who wins the game.
Yeah. I mean, look, I will never forget that Falcons Super Bowl for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
ever.
There's a lot of bad luck in that for you.
I think about that game almost every single day, and it happened 7 years ago.
that Super Bowl, though, to be fair, even for non-Falcons fans, was like a I remember where I was moment. Like when the Patriots had the comeback, I was just like, I will never forget the friend's apartment floor that I was sitting on when I watched it happen, because that was such a insane and historic Super Bowl.
I watched the game by myself that day.
Oh man!
Because it was.
How much did you drink afterwards?
I drank an entire fifth of whiskey.
Okay,
by myself.
I wish you hadn't been honest. That's entirely too much whiskey.
It is.
Jesus Christ, man.
And I remember I was so stunned. I couldn't really process it. So after I cussed a bunch of people out on the internet, I literally just sat in silence. Where I was still living at my parents' house. I sat in silence until like 5 o'clock in the morning, probably. And I remember shortly after the game, my dad came and knocked on my door, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I just turned around. I was like, don't even know what to say. And I just turned right back around. And he was like, "Okay."
I'm sorry.
So yeah.
So you relive that like every Super Bowl?
No. I stopped reliving it. I would say after the Patriots beat the Rams in Atlanta, I was like, I have to let this go.
Yeah.
I have to let this go because there was just, I haven't let it go, but I have to.
When we talk about like the luck in winning Super Bowls, like I think Tom Brady is a great example of that, because like how many of his Super Bowls, I mean, we could like legit quantify.
I know one for sure, the Edelman catch. But also the Seahawks one, like how many of those are just like he didn't really have a lot to do with the final like lucky thing that won the game, right? Like it could have happened the exact opposite you're in
way.
Dangerous territory.
I know. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tom Brady. He's like obviously the best quarterback of all time.
No,
I'm just saying.
It's fine. Like you should do that in private, though. You know,
are people really gonna get mad at that? Come on. Okay. Well, I don't know. Blame Stugatz.
Yeah, I will. So I want to ask you, on the same wavelength, what's the worst possible outcome for this game in terms of rooting interest for you specifically? Because I know for me, the worst
is Shanahan winning.
Be coming back from 28-3. Shanahan doing that and beating the Chiefs would be the worst thing that could happen. That'd be so bad. Yeah, where was this 7 years ago?
Oh man. I mean, if I'm being honest, I feel like I really just like. It's so rare for me to not hate one of the teams in the Super Bowl, and I really don't hate either of these teams.
Neither do I.
Like, they're both really good and deserve to be in the game and have awesome players on both sides that, I like both coaches. It's the same amount. I like Andy Reid a little bit more.
So you don't like them the same amount?
Yeah, you're right. I just completely lied. They're both fine, though. I don't hate either. Like, Bill Belichick's not coaching in this game, all right?
No.
So I don't know. I don't really care, and it doesn't affect me as a Steelers fan. So, like, if the Ravens were in this game, obviously as a Steelers fan, like, watching your division rival win the Super Bowl is, like, the worst thing ever, and I've seen it happen, and it sucked. So that's different. But this is, like, Patrick Mahomes. Give it up for that guy, right? Like, if he wins, like, it's incredible to watch that. And so I'm kind of cheering for that, but it doesn't really affect me either way.
Yeah, I remember I was at the AFC title game last week, and when he threw that first touchdown to Travis Kelce, I was like, oh, this game's over.
Yeah, that was the Kyle Hamilton one?
Yeah. That's perfect coverage.
How do you cover that? Yeah.
Threw it on his back hip on the back corner of the end zone.
Honestly, a little
Yeah, I was like, why would
they do that to Kyle Hamilton?
Oh, so man. You're going to do this to all these Ravens?
I was like, God damn it.
People pay good money to see their team win, and you're just throwing invisible match passes.
I hate it.
How long until our teams get back to the Super Bowl? If you had to put a prediction on the Steelers, because that's your real team.
It really is. I mean, the Bears will never be back. Let's be honest.
No, it's not happening. Caleb Williams, Vic May, you're a draft bust. Whoever you get picked by, or not whoever. If you end up in Chicago, whoever ends up there, you're a bust.
That's the thing about the Bears that no one wants to talk about. Like, there's several wrong choices that they can make, but no matter what, it will not work out for them because they have made so many wrong choices leading up to this point that it's not like there's no automatic like path to success.
Maybe they can find where Sid Luckman is buried and bring him back from the dead and get him to play quarterback.
Yeah, Sid Luckman.
That's the guy. Like if you talk to people who really study like football stats and history, like Sid Luckman, 1942, baby, pre-World War.
Maybe they need to go find the Billy Goat again, like the Cubs.
Oh yes,
and like do a sacrifice. I just saw Troy Polamalu walk by. Oh my god.
Hi Troy.
Anywho, The Steelers, I think, will be there before the Falcons. Sorry.
Yes. So give me a year.
2032.
Oh wait, no, that's not a long time. It's 8 years. 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
All right.
So the guy after Kenny Pickett.
Okay. For the Falcons, I am gonna go 2050.
2050. Holy! How old will we be in 2050? Like in our 50s.
What's 29 plus 26? However, 55.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like almost on Medicare.
I won't be watching football by that point. I don't think.
Will we still be playing tackle football?
Yes, because there's too much money.
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be like 4 teams in Vegas. All of the Friday night games are going to be in Brazil.
Yeah, I'm going to be 55 years old with a broken back, still trying to find someone to take me to the dispensary.
If you stop drinking fifths of whiskey, you will make it that long.
Well, I just need not to have my heart broken by the Falcons again. Well, maybe that one will just knock me out forever.
Oh, man.
228, 23.
Oh, it's sad. I hope that doesn't happen.
Just my kids just watching me. Why is Daddy spiraling like that? He's reliving some nightmares.
You don't want to know. Let me tell you about Houston, 2018.
That's why, like, I tell people, like, I will never let my future children root for loser teams.
The Falcons?
Especially not the Falcons. Like, you're going to be a Chiefs fan, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not letting my kids root for Notre Dame, that's for sure.
We're going to Arrowhead.
I wouldn't even make my dog wear a Notre Dame sweater.
Or if there's another, like, Mahomes level guy who enters the league in a few years, you can root for that team, but no. You could be a Ravens fan. Be a Chiefs fan.
I think we give too much to people who are bandwagon fans. Those people know what they're doing.
So
I wish I could just hop around like that. It must feel amazing.
Well, I got to experience that as a LeBron James fan.
Oh my God.
People are like, oh, you're not loyal to him. I'm loyal to LeBron James.
Hey, that's why being a Formula One fan is great. Because if you just pick the guy who keeps winning stuff, like you have a pretty good weekend every once in a while.
Yeah. But then I got to curse the Lakers because they're not good. And whenever he leaves, I'll leave. You're like, oh, you weren't actually a Lakers fan? No.
Of course not.
Of course, yeah. Well, I don't give a damn about the Lakers. You're for LeBron. All right. Let's get out of here soon. Any final Super Bowl predictions you got?
I think the 49ers are going to win.
Wow, I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Oh, okay. Well, where are we going to celebrate our birthday this year?
Do we have the same birthday?
Yeah, it's coming up. Remember?
Was it my birthday?
Yeah, in the Seaport. We went to the bar.
That was a birthday?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the Chiefs are going to win because they have Patrick Mahomes.
I think that's a great reason to pick the Chiefs. And that's why I picked them throughout this entire playoffs. But, like, I'm a vibes-based girly, and right now, like, I just feel like good 49ers vibes.
See, I feel evil Chiefs vibes. And that's where I'm in on.
Oh,
like,
evil vibes are fun.
Yeah, to me, I feel like they just hit, like, their Darth Vader.
Yeah. Like, if they're doing it now, who's going to stop them? It's ridiculous.
I don't know, but, like, I've always thought it'd be funny. Not funny. But, like, what if you called a Tony Soprano-esque character to, like, kidnap Patrick Mahomes before the Super Bowl? Wouldn't that be kind of funny?
Jesus
like, just
Christ.
like a storyline?
I mean,
nothing bad happens to Mahomes, but he has to sit there for a few weeks until...
Imagine what Roger Goodell would do if that happened.
Probably call the U.S. Army.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
The National Guard would be deployed instantly. That would be a great episode of a TV show, actually. NCIS Las Vegas.
Yeah, Law and Order, this is copyrighted material, so don't even think about taking my idea of someone kidnaps the best quarterback in the league before the Super Bowl.
Can you imagine the takes? It would be so good.
It would be great.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of people saying that it wasn't real, too.
Taylor Swift would get blamed. I don't know how, but it would be her fault.
Yeah, it would. For sure, somehow it would be her fault. Speaking of, Usher is doing the halftime show.
Yes.
Taylor Swift was in the running for it.
Yes.
That's right. I guess there's supposed to be a surprise guest at the halftime show.
Oh.
I don't know what this means.
Huh.
But we should guess who the surprise guest will be in Usher's realm. I'm going to guess Keke Palmer.
That's a good guess.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, that whole thing this year with her, I feel like she might want to actually stay away
That's probably a good
because
point.
of it. Ooh, I don't know. What's your favorite Usher song?
You Don't Have to Call.
Okay.
Sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Jeez. I'm excited for it. I don't know who it's going to be, though. I feel like every year I'm like, oh, it's definitely going to be Drake and Rihanna, and then it's just not.
I'm trying to think who Usher has done music with, like that. You can't. I'm not going to say that.
Make Love in This Club.
Yeah,
that's
who
my
did he do
favorite
that song with? Because he did the remix with a bunch of people. He could do it could be a Lil Jon feature here.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see Lil Jon is going to put out like some like spoken word, like therapy album soon.
What? Is this because like Andre 3000 did the flute album? So now
I don't know, but that album was pretty good.
It was good. I listened to the whole thing.
Me too. In one sitting, I just hit play.
I didn't
and I
think
was
flute was my jam, but turns out it is.
Yeah, the Andre 3000 album was kind of like a, like if I owned a spa, I would just have that album playing all day. Yeah, no words, just lovely flute tunes.
Just vibes.
All right, Jess, it's time to get out of here. You want to let people know anything you're working on coming up?
Check out the Betard Show. You can, if you don't know who Stu Gatz is, I've mentioned him several times now. You could see him just talk about how many rings Tom Brady has whenever you want. It's a good show.
If you like looking at Wikipedia pages for your sports information, I feel like Stu Gatz is right up your alley because that's where it tells you.
Yes.
7-time NFL champion, 10-time NFL MVP, or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, I gotta catch up with him.
That's my guy. Check out the Betard Show though.
Yeah. What about, don't you have your own podcast?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay. Good to know.
Oh, well, my F1 podcast.
F1 podcast.
DNF.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I was thinking about the other one.
Not doing it anymore.
Okay.
Sad.
I'll ask you about that later.
You could still check it out. Go look at Smitty.
Yeah. No, not even that one. I was thinking about the college football one.
Oh, yeah. I'm still doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, Gen CFB.
Gen CFB.
It's not like it's a segment more so than we don't have our own RSS feed.
No, it's a podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
Take your word for it.
Yes. All right. You can send us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/0blitz. Ask a question, send a hottest take, listen to them, reply on the show. Be back next week with another episode of the Exempt List every Tuesday. And I guess from now on, will be more off-season focus. So a lot of free agency, drafts. We'll see what happens as the coaching staffs fill out. I'm Charles McDonald. You can find me on Twitter at 4verts. My friend Jess is on Twitter at Jess_Smetana. Got producers Stone Rochelle, Brett Rader. Stone's on Twitter at SJ Rochelle. Brett's on Twitter at Brett Rader, like Vader, but with an R. And we will see you next week.